The final signs about Bani Israel and Masjid Al-Aqsa. Okay, let's have a look at this one.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salamu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Amma ba'd. So before we move on to our next final signs of Judgment Day, I wanted to pause here.
There's so many here now.
Incorporate a very interesting explanation of the beginning of Surah Isra. And this is something that is relatively modern, as I will explain. If you have a Quran, by the way, it would be nice if you check your Quran right now, the first pages of Surah Isra. If you have some type of Quran app or something, please take a look at that so that you can follow along. Because this is now another interpretation of a very classical set of verses that many ulama of our times actually, more and more ulama, are interpreting Surah Isra as being one of the signs of Judgment Day. And if you begin from the surah, it starts off with the issue of Subhanalladhi asra bi'abdihi, the issue of Isra, and the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed the Bani Israel, and that He gave them some power in the land. Now, the verses then go on. وَقَضَيْنَا إِلَى بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ فِي الْكِتَابِ لَتُفْسِدُنَّ فِي الْأَرْضِ مَرَّتَيْنِ. This is verse number 4 of Surah Isra. Okay, follow along. These are very powerful verses. قَضَيْنَا إِلَى بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ. We conveyed and decreed to the children of Israel in the kitab. What is the kitab here? Most of our ulama said the Lawh al-Mahfuz. We decreed amongst the Lawh al-Mahfuz that to whom? To the Bani Israel. لَتُفْسِدُنَّ فِي الْأَرْضِ مَرَّتَيْنِ. You shall cause fasad in this world twice. You shall cause fasad twice. لَتُفْسِدُنَّ فِي الْأَرْضِ مَرَّتَيْنِ وَلَتَعْلُنَّ عُلُوًّا كَبِيرًا. And you shall reach a degree of great haughtiness. عُلُوًّا كَبِيرًا. Interestingly enough, Allah uses the same adjective for Fir'aun. إِنَّ فِرْعَوْنَ يَا حَفَظَهُ إِنَّ فِرْعَوْنَ عَلَى فِي.
You know, it's like interesting. I've seen actually some people comparing Netanyahu from Israel with Firaun actually. Like there are such claims where there are actually, I came across a video and that one draws parallels, right? Like, oh, it's my kind of like kingdom or area. I'm in power. I don't care about my political opponents, this and that. I will set my goals. I will finish them no matter what. I'm arrogant, this and that. Like some of those like traits, yeah. Like you see some parallels if you research this a bit between Firaun and Netanyahu. Subhanallah.
Interestingly enough, Allah uses the same adjective for Fir'aun. Inna Fir'auna ya hafadha. Inna Fir'auna ala fil ardi. So Allah is saying the Bani Israel will have two periods of might and izzah that they will honor or abuse. Which one?
Abuse.
وَلَتَعْلُنَّ عُلُوًّا كَبِيرًا. Okay, you guys all follow me? Everybody on the same page? Okay, now we move on. فَإِذَا جَاءَ وَعْدُ أُولَاهُمَا. When the first of these two promises come, when the first time that you shall rise up, you shall be dominant, you shall have ulu and cause fasad. What is fasad? Fasad is corruption. Fasad is killing. Fasad is subjugation of people. Fasad is lots of chaos wherever you are. This fasad. Wallahu la yuhibbul fasad. إن الملوك إذا دخلوا قرية أفسدوها. This is fasad. Fasad is caused by corrupt people, by evil people. So Allah is saying, when the first of these two times is going to happen, what is going to happen? فإذا جاء وعد أولاهما بعثنا عليكم عبادا لنا أولي بأس شديد. We shall send against you. An army will come, a group will come against you. They are our creation, our servants. عبادا لنا. We created them, you didn't create them.
You know, it's like interesting, something I have to point out here. So in Israel, right, like the people of Bani Israel, like some people are wondering, like, hey, why are they blessed? Why is the land so important? When you think about it, like a lot of prophets, peace be upon them, come from this area, right? Like, look at it, at like one of the greatest prophets, for example, like Jesus, peace be upon him, is from there, right? You also have like the people of Bani Israel, right? Like with Musa alayhi salam, and you have a holy site. This is Masjid Al-Aqsa. So this is like a very blessed land, right? And when you think about it, and like the Jews originated from there, right? Like Christians originated from there. Like so many religions found their also origin in this area, right? So this is actually something. Like, there's of course just one true religion, that is Islam, but I mean that like those split religions, right? Like Jews, right? And Christians that have like an altered version of Islam that is no more authentic. Yes, it's no more authentic, I'm saying it. So if you guys are curious, research about what we Muslims like think about other scriptures, because we are not denying that there were other messengers sent with messages. No, we are not denying this as Muslims. What we are saying is they are no more authentic. They have been changed, corrupted, and altered, and we believe that the Quran is the last authentic message from Allah. This is what we believe. But yeah, like this used to be a place of worshipping Allah, like Israel, right? It used to be like, some people call it the Holy Land even, right? And now there's corruption going on. So of course, like this, all what is said here is very, very fitting. I agree totally.
An army will come, a group will come against you.
Facts.
They are our creation, our servants. عِبَادًا لَنَا. We created them, you didn't create them. عِبَادًا لَنَا. أُولِي بَأْسٍ شَدِيد. They have great military might. They are a strong qawm. They're not a weak qawm. أُولِي بَأْسٍ شَدِيدٍ فَجَاسُوا خِلَالَ الدِّيَارِ. And they managed to go and probe even into your houses. They're going to go and all the way destroy all the way to your houses. وَكَانَ وَعْدًا مَفْعُولًا. And this was a promise that indeed took place.
Yes.
It is a true promise. وَكَانَ وَعْدًا مَفْعُولًا. Everybody clear so far? Okay? Now, ثُمَّ رَدَدْنَا لَكُمُ الْكَرَّةَ عَلَيْهِمْ. Then we gave you back a karra, a new chance.
Yeah.
We gave you another chance. And we caused you to have a victory over your enemies. ثُمَّ رَدَدْنَا لَكُمُ الْكَرَّةَ عَلَيْهِمْ. So from being subjugated, from being humiliated, what happened? You rose up again.
Yeah.
You rose from the ashes and you developed power. And وَأَمْدَدْنَاكُمْ بِأَمْوَالٍ وَبَنِينَ. We gave you blessings. You now had a civilization, children, wealth. وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ أَكْثَرَ نَفِيرًا. And we made you powerful in numbers. Your أَكْثَرَ نَفِيرًا means your manpower or your strength or your military might. All of this is allowed here, right? So you became a mighty nation. ثم رددنا لكم الكرة عليهم وأمددناكم بأموال وبنين وجعلناكم أكثر نفيرا إن أحسنتم لأنفسكم. يا بني إسرائيل, if you do good, it's only for yourself. You will do good.
Yeah.
وإن أسأتم فلها. But if you do evil, it will be used against you. You have power. If you are faithful to your commandments, if you obey Allah, you will benefit yourself. Your nation will thrive. You will become.
Yeah, but this is a rule for us Muslims, right? Like if we obey Allah, we live halal, right? Halal will give you blessings. Your life will be good. But if you end up in like a lot of haram things, like there can be like temporary happiness from haram, right? Like there are some things that are haram, they make you temporarily happy for a moment. But after this, you will get the effects of the sins in the future. Be it riba. With riba, you can get indebted, right? Like you have so much debt that you're going bankrupt. You have to sell your house, your car, everything from riba, right? Like something bad happens, you have a lot of riba, it's game over for you financially, right? Alcohol and some things that are not healthy for you. If you keep using them, at some point you will have health problems, or you will have some after effects the next day where your head hurts, right? Like, oh, today I'm having a good day, I'm having fun, right? A'udhu billah. And then the next day, headache or something. Or maybe you break your family apart because of your addiction or something. Like there are like a lot of effects that come from haram, of things that we are forbidden. So if we disobey Allah in any way and we commit sins, even if the sins make us temporarily happy, there will be an after effect of it. And I just mentioned like a few examples, right? With like drinking, then you destroy your family, or you have headache the next day, riba, suddenly maybe you lose your job, you have a lot of riba, then you go bankrupt, you sell your house, your car, something can happen. So yeah, there's like always after effects. Or zina, right? Like you have a child with the wrong person, the person goes away with the child, you have to pay every month money, you don't even see the kid or something. Like I can make a long list and talk 1 hour or even 2 hours about the effects of sins. But what I'm trying to say is just obey Allah and you're gonna be fine. You're gonna have a blessed life.
If you are faithful to your commandments, if you obey Allah, you will benefit yourself. Your nation will thrive.
Facts.
You will become more powerful. But if you misuse that power, and if you subjugate others and cause tyranny and fasad,
it's happening
then
now.
that will be taken away from you. وَإِنْ أَسَأْتُمْ فَلَهَا فَإِذَا جَاءَ وَعْدُ الْآخِرَةِ. When the akhirah, the akhirah does not mean the akhirah. The akhirah here means the end of the two, the second one, the last one.
Okay.
The ulahuma is the
akhirah.
first one. The akhirah is the last one. Doesn't mean the akhirah, the hereafter. No, that's a misunderstanding that people might have when they don't understand the meaning of akhirah here. فَإِذَا جَاءَ وَعْدُ الْآخِرَةِ. When the final of these, meaning the second, because there's going to be 2 times that they will rise up, right? When the second and final time, because there shall not be a third time of power. Ya Bani Israel, Allah has decreed you shall come to power and be a civilization twice. The first one, وَكَانَ وَعْدًا مَفْعُولًا. It is a done deal. The second one, when it shall happen, فَإِذَا جَاءَ وَعْدُ الْآخِرَةِ لِيَسُوءُ وُجُوهَكُمْ. There is a missing phrase here, and that missing phrase, we should say it is understood by the context that Allah will send another group of people, and they will cause your faces to become sour. You will find that because when you're hurt, when you're irritated, when you're angry, when something happens to you, your faces scowl. لِيَسُوءُ وُجُوهَكُمْ. After they were beaming with pride, they will now become scowling with anger. لِيَسُوءُ وُجُوهَكُمْ. Now here, listen to this. وَلِيَدْخُلُوا الْمَسْجِدَ كَمَا دَخَلُوهُ أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ. And they shall enter the masjid. Which masjid, ya audience?
Al-Aqsa?
Aqsa. There's no ikhtilaf. The masjid here is not Mecca and Medina. Aqsa. وَلِيَدْخُلُوا الْمَسْجِدِ. And they shall enter the masjid. Masjid Al-Aqsa. كَمَا دَخَلُوهُ أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ. As they entered it the previous
time.
كَمَا دَخَلُوهُ أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ وَلِيُتَبِّرُوا مَا عَلَوْا تَتْبِيرًا. And they will destroy whatever you had taken over with your ulu, whatever you had done, whatever you had built, whatever had been constructed with your ulu, وَلِيُتَبِّرُوا مَا عَلَوْا تَتْبِيرًا. All of it will be destroyed and taken away. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنْ أَحْسَنْتُمْ أَحْسَنْتُمْ لِأَنفُسِكُمْ. عَسَى رَبُّكُمْ أَنْ يَرْحَمَكُمْ. عَسَى رَبُّكُمْ أَنْ يَرْحَمَكُمْ. Your Lord might have mercy on you. وَإِنْ عُدْتُمْ عُدْنَا. And if you go back to your evil ways, we will go back to our punishing of you. That's what it means here. If you go back to your evil ways, we will go back to punishing you. وَجَعَلْنَا جَهَنَّمَ لِلْكَافِرِينَ حَصِيرًا. And we have made Jahannam a place for the kuffar to reside in. Jayyid. Okay. Everybody followed the translation?
Yes.
Clear? Jayyid. Okay. You have a quick question. Go ahead. وَإِنْ عُدْتُمْ عُدْنَا. No, because فَإِذَا جَاءَ وَعْدُ الْآخِرَةِ. The akhirah here means that's it, end of story. There shall never be a third time. Otherwise Allah would not have said akhirah, it would have said thaniya. Akhirah here means there is no third
2
time.
times, yeah.
You all understood the translation. Okay, what is the tafsir of this page of Surah Isra? Most of the early commentators, in fact I do not know of any ikhtilaf from early Islam. And by the way, again, I don't want to keep on bringing in the Ya'juj and Ma'juj, all the controversy happening is irrelevant to me. I preach what I preach and whoever accepts doesn't. But still, one issue. Some people raised the issue, oh my God, nobody before you said this. Firstly, this isn't true. In the sense, there have been alternative interpretations of Ya'juj and Ma'juj. Even from at least 80 years, people have been trying to rethink through and have alternatives. Secondly, here's the key point. Just because because an interpretation is propagated in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th century, it is not binding on the 15th century of Islam. This is the key point. What are we obliged to follow? Allah and His Messenger.
Yeah.
Everything else we respect. We respect the tradition, but it is not binding. If we were to open this door, wallahi, I can give you many dozens of examples of classical mufassirin saying something that we now know is patently false, is just not correct, you know. Of them, a very simple one, not all of them, but many of the classical mufassirin said that we created insan from alaq, and alaq in Arabic, one of the meanings of alaq is a clot of blood. And technically this is not true. The clot of blood, insan is never a clot of blood inside of the mother's womb. In fact, it is much more before it becomes blood. And in our times, alaq is now interpreted as something which is suspended, something which is hanging. Allaqa yu'alliqu means to be suspended from. So we look at modern science and we say, oh, hold on a sec, this meaning actually makes more sense in that, you know, manner, and so on and so forth. There are so many examples that can be given. Here's the point. The interpretation of a group of respected ulama is exactly that. It is an interpretation of a group of respected ulama. There is no mockery. I'm not mocking. There's no making fun of. It's just their interpretation. Jazakallah khair. Are we obliged to hold it until Qiyam as-Sa'ah? Give me the evidence. قُلْ هَاتُوا بُرْهَانَكُمْ. So here is one example that honestly so many of our modern scholars are rethinking through, because the Quran is so explicit. So you see where I'm heading with all of this. You all understand. Where I'm heading, there are dozens of modern ulama that have already said, I'm not the one saying it, but not a single alim 70 years ago held this view.
Yeah.
How could they, when the political world was very different 70 years ago? You guys know what happened 70 years ago. Not a single alim ever felt that this ayah is a prediction of the future. Every alim that I have read, I could have missed some, but 40 ulama that I've read, the classical mufassirin, everyone is considering.
You know, it's like so also incredible when you think about it with the Quran, right? Like how there are some verses and the interpretation, and now in the modern days they make more sense than they did in the past, right? Because of our understanding, like how science has evolved, right? Like some of the miracles in the Quran are also a bit newer, right? Like there were certain things like okay, so for example, there's like a miracle, right, where it says something about the sea, right, where there's like different layers, or how seas are not mixing and this and that. This is also like stuff they did not know back in the day, right? Or that the bee was female, like for example, you needed a microscope, right? And like there are like a lot of like discoveries that are just like a few hundreds of years old, right? That if you have some interpretation that's like 800 plus years old or something, it maybe says something completely different because there was a different understanding or something. And the interpretation is never the verse itself, right? Like there can be 2-3 interpretations, and one can be correct, one can be questionable, and one can be false or something, right? Or 2 interpretations and they both make sense in a unique way. Like maybe one is missing something that the other one is catching or something, right? So yeah.
Some, but 40 ulama that I've read, the classical mufassirin, everyone is considering these two been there, done that from the past. And why would they not? Because in their time frame, the Bani Israel, there is no hope of another nation coming. They are scattered throughout the world.
Yeah.
There is nothing that combines them. So they read these verses, they read history, and common sense. There's nothing to make fun of, nothing to dismissive attitude. I would have done the same had I been alive 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago. That's human beings. Don't make our ulama infallible. I can be wrong and they can be wrong. They can be wrong, I can be right. I can be right, they can be wrong. This is the nature of human beings. These ulama, pretty much all of them, they said what? These 2 ulu have already taken place in the past. Done deal. And then they differed, as is to be expected, because there is no ijma'. They differed which of these 2. And some said that the first of these was the Assyrian exile of 722 BC, when the Assyrians attacked the remnants of the original kingdom of Israel that was founded by Talut and Dawood and Sulaiman, the ones who actually founded the original kingdom of Israel. It then splintered into 2, and then these 2 disintegrated, one of them remained. One disintegrated, one remained. The one that remained was finally gotten rid of by the Assyrians who attacked them in 722 BC. And then Another group came, and eventually the Babylonian expulsion took place under Nebuchadnezzar, Bukhtanasar, Nebuchadnezzar in 597 BC. So this is one interpretation, that the first of them was 722 BC and the second of them was 597 BC. Others have said, and this is very popular as well, and this is the position of even some of the tabi'un. Some of the tabi'un, this was their position, that the first of these, the ulahuma, is 597 when the second temple was destroyed. Maybe one day we'll have a longer history about the Bani Israel. There were two temples.
It's actually
the
very
original temple of
fascinating to learn
Sulaiman,
about them.
that Allah Azza wa Jal blessed Sulaiman with, that the jinn helped him to build a magnificent structure that people could marvel at, because it wasn't built by humans only. So this was the jinn helped Sulaiman built the most.
Oh, for those that didn't know, so Sulaiman alayhi salam, he had also a jinn under his control, right? Like once even a jinn moved one throne from A to B for Sulaiman alayhi salam. So yeah, this is actually interesting. Like I love the story of Sulaiman alayhi salam. It's a very beautiful prophet story as well. Like all prophet stories are beautiful.
At, because it wasn't built by humans only. So this was the jinn helped Sulaiman built the most magnificent icon in the whole world at that time. And this was destroyed in 722 by the Assyrian invasion. And then they built a second temple. And the King Herod built the other temple, which was then destroyed under the Roman destruction of 70 CE. 70 CE, after Jesus Christ, right? So from 722, there was no temple. Then King Herod built the temple again, and it was there for a few decades. Then in 70 BC, the Romans came and destroyed the temple, and the Wailing Wall that we see today is the only remnants of the second temple built by King Herod or King Herod. As for the temple of Sulaiman, nothing remains. Wala shay, nothing. What we have is the second temple, one wall, and that's the western wall, and that is the Wailing Wall that you know, that was built around the time of Jesus, and that is now the wall that they go and they worship at. So many of our tabi'un said, the first is the expulsion of Bukhtanasar, because Bukhtanasar massacred them. It was one of the main massacres of the Bani Israel, and he was somebody who basically almost exterminated them. Then they had to flee to various places in the world, and then in the Roman expulsion as well in 70 CE, another wave took place. Jayyid. This is the classical interpretation, that the two have already occurred. You understand where I'm heading with this?
I mean, they do have a strong point here, right? Because those were two major events that took place in this area. So I see like where they are coming from, like where this interpretation is coming from, right? Like they were forced to like flee, just like described in this part, right? In Surah Al-Isra, right? So this is just like that, right? So I see why there is such interpretation. It makes sense to me.
There is a modern interpretation that a number of prominent ulama from across the globe, and I mean there are a number of names, but most of these are not to the level that we understand. Footnote here, generally speaking, students of knowledge stick with the madrasa they graduate from. So if their teacher said it, they will remain that way. So to break away from the tradition is not something that is typical, understandably so, and I'm not encouraging that. So whatever your teachers taught you, whatever you read Ibn Kathir and Tabari and Zamakhshari and whatnot, you will stick with it and keep on replicating.
What I always suggest is have more than one teacher. If you're learning just from one source, you only get as much knowledge as this one person had in their life or something, right? But what if you actually have like multiple teachers that are really good at something, right? Like what if you have one teacher that's like super good, like a genius with the Sharia, right? What if you have one that is very good with applying Islamic practices, right? Like following Quran Sunnah to like modern day to the modern day lifestyle. What if you have someone that's like very, very good with like hadith and like maybe tafsir or something, right? So you have like multiple teachers and they all excel at something, right? They are really good at something. So it's good to have like multiple teachers, because one is very good with Sharia, one is very good with like hadiths, one is very good with like applying Islam in modern days, right? Like how like fix social problems, this and that. One is maybe very, very good with, I don't know, tafsir from Quran or something. So they are like teachers, they all have something that they are really, really good at. It's the same if you're going to school, right? You have a math teacher that is like specialized in math, right? You have a biology teacher specialized in biology, and you have like an English teacher or something. So every teacher has a limit, and that is also his or her time during this life, right? So they cannot be perfect at everything. Maybe one person spent more years in this field, one person more in this field. So that's why I, for example, learn from multiple sources, because I know one source has a limited amount of knowledge, and this one has a limited amount of knowledge. And maybe they are more trained in this area and field. Maybe they are more trained and learned into this area and field. So, yeah.
Alhamdulillah, there's no problem.
They have more studied there, more studied there.
Some people are willing to rethink through and break away. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. I'll be the first to say, not every breaking away is good. And those ulama who tend to do this, obviously they have to face their backlash and whatnot, but at the same time, they're the ones who produce some very interesting ideas, such as what I'm about to say. A number of prominent scholars in Egypt, in Bilad al-Sham, in Palestine, a number of places, they are saying, why are we assuming that these are in the past? The Quran doesn't say so. In fact,
it doesn't
the Quran
say the
only says
timeline.
one of them. وَكَانَ وَعْدًا مَفْعُولًا. The first one has taken place. As for the second,
it has not been confirmed.
The Quran does not say that it has taken place. Why are we assuming it has taken place? And now you see exactly where we're heading with this, right? So the first one would then be, most likely, the first destruction of the temple. That was when the glory of the original kingdom completely gone. And they have never had that type of political stability.
Ever again.
Up until when? We all know up until when.
Yeah, later.
And so, Allah Azza wa Jalla is saying, ثُمَّ رَدَدْنَا لَكُمُ الْكَرَّةَ عَلَيْهِمْ. We give you one more chance, and you were victorious over your enemies. وَأَمْدَدْنَاكُمْ. We helped you, we aided you. You had government aid, you had the largest endowments from the biggest superpower in the world. You had everything you could have ever wanted. Right? وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ أَكْثَرَ نَفِيرًا. You couldn't have asked for more. With all of this, what did you do? إِنْ أَحْسَنْتُمْ أَحْسَنْتُمْ لِأَنفُسِكُمْ. If you acted properly, that would have been for your own. وَإِنْ أَسَأْتُمْ فَلَهَا فَإِذَا جَاءَ وَعْدُ الْآخِرَةِ. So then when the second time comes, لِيَسُوءُ وُجُوهَكُمْ, means there's a missing phrase like we said, another group will come. And this group will eliminate the izzah that you had, and you shall see that your ulu and your fasad and your evil did not help you. And you will see it, and your faces will demonstrate that. لِيَسُوءُ وُجُوهَكُمْ. Now here's the key point that allows them to make this tafsir. وَلِيَدْخُلُوا الْمَسْجِدَ كَمَا دَخَلُوهُ أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ. The group that is being referenced here, it is not alien to Masjid Al-Aqsa. This group has already conquered Masjid Al-Aqsa at some previous point in history. And now they are conquering it again. وَلِيَدْخُلُوا الْمَسْجِدَ كَمَا دَخَلُوهُ أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ. Who conquered Jerusalem once before and wants to conquer it again? The Ummah. And Umar ibn al-Khattab is the one who was the one who conquered in the first time. Jayyid. So this is another interpretation, and it is gaining more and more traction. And frankly, this phrase, كَمَا دَخَلُوهُ
I mean, it's occupied right now, right? You could say.
And in my humble opinion, it's a very, very plausible tafsir.
If you look at like Masjid Al-Aqsa, right? I mean, it is under control of the Israeli government right now, basically, right? Like, yeah, Muslims can go there to pray, this and that, right? But when you look at like the map and who actually owns this place, Yeah, it has been declared a neutral zone by the UN or something, right? But in theory or on paper, you could say, right? It is still like part of Israel, right? But now the people from Palestine, they also want to come here and pray. But you see, guys, like there's like some conflict. So yeah, this conquering again of the Masjid Al-Aqsa, like, this is kind of happening right now, right? Yeah, there are like a lot of parallels here. Like things that are happening today really line up with that verse. So I see like why modern scholars, right, say this.
This phrase, كَمَا دَخَلُوهُ أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ, is very powerful. And in my humble opinion, it's a very, very plausible tafsir. Very plausible tafsir. And this will give us hope. And we already talked about the Mahdi and all of this.
Back,
so all
right?
of this can also be over there. Jayyid. By the way, this isn't the only interpretation. There are a number of other interpretations here as well. And I'll just mention two others. And both of these are scholars that I admire, even if I disagree with some of the things about some of them. The first of them, I will not mention his name because of political issues. So he says that the kitab here is the Torah. And, the kitab here is Lawh al-Mahfuz, وَقَضَيْنَا إِلَى بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ فِي الْكِتَابِ. And he is saying that in his opinion, this ulu, even the first one, is not of the past. Rather, in his opinion, the first one is happening right now.
Wow.
And his reasoning is the phrase عِبَادًا لَنَا بَعَثْنَا عَلَيْكُمْ عِبَادًا لَنَا. And he says, while it is true that عِبَادًا لَنَا can reference Muslim and non-Muslim, because all of the creation are ibad of Allah.
Yeah.
He
even
says
if
the
indirectly.
context seems to indicate that
why are you saying that even Muslim and non-Muslims are ibad? Why? Because if you think about it, when you take a breath or you do any action on this planet, you do it by the will of Allah, right? So in a way, you are still like a servant. You're just a disobedient servant, right? Because if you rely on someone, you have like a master, a creator, even if you're a disobedient servant, you're still a servant in a way, right? And every newborn is born as a Muslim, right? But they are being raised into a religion by their parents. Like, do animals, like you can say the same about animals, right? Like animals are also in a way, like ibad, right? Because they're also like worshipping in a way, right? They don't do like the salah 5 times like we do. They don't recite Quran. I mean, I've never seen like a animal outside or in the forest recite the Quran. That would have been a very strange sight, right? But all life forms are ibad in a way, right? Because they're all under control of a master, a creator, and whatever they do, it happens by the will of their creator, right? So if you look at it like from that perspective, yeah, I agree here.
Muslim and non-Muslim, because all of the creation are ibad of Allah.
Yeah.
He says the context seems to indicate that ibadah lana is a praise. And therefore they must be the Muslim ummah. And therefore he is saying that we shall see this ibadah lana maybe soon in our lifetime. Then ashrat as-sa'a will begin and they might get it back. Then there will be a reconquest under the time of the Mahdi and the Isa and whatnot. Okay, that is an interpretation. Another great alim whom I really admire, Sheikh Walad Dadu from Mauritania, great scholar, person who I've had the privilege to meet, and somebody who I think is an allama and a bahr of our times. Sheikh Dadu, he interprets it in a completely unique manner, unprecedented. And again, he doesn't mind that nobody before him doesn't have this opinion. The Quran is there, the Sunnah is there. We are allowed to, those who are qualified, to look at the Quran and Sunnah in light of our current times. Shaykh Walad Dadu, he interprets it in a totally different way. And subhanAllah, you have to pay attention to this. He says, ثُمَّ رَدَدْنَا لَكُمُ الْكَرَّةَ عَلَيْهِمْ. Then we gave back to you, O Muslims, not the Bani Israel, the victory. And we reinforced you, O Muslims, with wealth and sons. And we made you, O Muslims, more numerous and powerful. Then when the final promise comes, meaning now with the rise of a modern political entity and a modern country, now when this entity comes, they لِيَسُوءُ وُجُوهَكُمْ, they will sadden your faces, O Muslims. He swapped it around completely. Rather than saddening the faces of Bani Israel, he is saying, Allah is telling us, O Muslims,
that our faces
you shall
will
be humiliated
saddened
by them. لِيَسُوءُ وُجُوهَكُمْ وَلِيَدْخُلُوا الْمَسْجِدَ كَمَا دَخَلُوهُ أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ. They had it once upon a time, they will have it one more time. You understand? He completely flipped it around, right? كَمَا دَخَلُوا مَرَّةً وَلِيُتَبِّرُوا مَا عَلَوْا تَتْبِيرًا. And they will destroy the region, the farms, the peoples, impose a blockade, have the largest open-air prison in the world, and you keep on going all of that way. لِيُتَبِّرُوا مَا عَلَوْا تَتْبِيرًا. عَسَى رَبُّكُمْ أَن يَرْحَمَكُمْ. To the Muslims, O Muslims, perhaps your Lord will have mercy. Be patient. Be patient. Because, as Ibn Abbas said, every time Allah says Asa in the Quran, it will happen. Asa rabbukum an yarhamakum, your Lord shall have mercy on you. O Muslims who are being persecuted, O Muslims who are dying, O Muslims who are becoming shaheed, being jailed, etc., etc., don't worry, Allah will have mercy on you. وَإِنْ عُدْتُمْ, when you return to your deen, عُدْنَا, to our promise to protect you. Completely flipped it over. When you are faithful to the religion, Allah will be faithful to His promise.
And
إِن
reward you.
تَنْصُرُوا اللَّهَ يَنْصُرْكُمْ وَيُثَبِّتْ أَقْدَامَكُمْ. And he goes on and on. So he completely reversed it around, and he basically says, this is a promise from Allah, that they shall rise again and they shall humiliate you. But Allah is saying, don't worry. The minute and the day you stand up to your principles, we shall return to ours. وَنُعُدْتُمْ عُدْنَا. So this is a very interesting interpretation of Shaykh al-Dadu, and while I respect it, with my humble opinion, it seems a bit of a takalluf. It's a little bit more of a reading into, and I think that this interpretation that, inshallah, there's
I see where it's coming
from. I think that is very easy to hold, and I am very sympathetic to this position, especially because of the phrase كَمَا دَخَلُوهُ أَوَّلَ مَرَّةٍ. Somebody entered Masjid Al-Aqsa before, and somebody will enter it again. The Muslims entered it before, they shall enter it again. Jayyid. So this was a complete different long tangent that needed to be done when it comes to Ashrat al-Sa'ad, the signs of Judgment Day.
Wow.
Experience the
This is a very, very good video. And actually this makes sense, like when you think about okay, this one, the past year, there were those events that took place, right, with the Assyrians, with the Romans and stuff. I see where those scholars are coming from that are saying, oh, those two events already took place, right? But I also see the viewpoint of the modern scholars, right? Because now if you look at the events that are happening and what's also happening with our Muslim Ummah, if you look at all the Muslim countries right now, there's so much fitna, there's bid'ah, and people are going away from Islam. Even the Muslim countries, the governments, I don't want to mention specific ones because for political reasons, right? But some of the governments of some Muslim countries, and you know probably which ones I'm talking about, they are nothing but, they're not following at all the Quran and Sunnah properly. They're a mix of half religion, half something else. So it's sin with halal. It's haram and halal in one cabinet, right? Basically, it's oh, we are 50-50 or something, 50% haram, 50% halal. Let's just take parts of the Quran, parts of the Sharia. Let's implement them into our laws, but let's also add some laws that are totally against Islam or something, right? You have such governments kind of, and the Muslims, some are not keeping the 5 prayers up. Sometimes they don't wake up for Fajr. People are having a lot of lack of knowledge in Islam, right? Oh, I'm a born Muslim, so yeah, I fast on Ramadan, I go Friday for Jummah, but besides that, no, I don't pray. I don't want to wear the hijab, no, I don't want to wait until marriage, I want to have haram relationships, this and that. It doesn't matter that there are magazines with half-naked women sold in this store, this and that. If you look at a lot of Muslim countries and the fitna and sin that is happening, it also is a reminder of Allah, if you look at certain Muslim countries where there's conflict, right? That we have to be very, very careful. because this is like also a sign of, hey, it's time to return to Allah, right? And it's a reminder, and now it's also a trial for us Muslims, because if you look at what's like happening in Palestine, right, we're also being tested right now. Are we going to make dua for our brothers and sisters in Palestine? Are we going to donate for them so they have something to eat, so they can sleep somewhere? Like, this is a test also for the Muslim Ummah that's happening right now. And yeah, about the two interpretations, like one saying it happened in the past and one in the future, I find both to be quite authentic and to make sense. But I find the modern one also very fascinating, because the events that are happening right now with Masjid Al-Aqsa, they're also plausible, because in the past, Al-Aqsa was under Muslim control. Now it's under control by the Israeli government in a way, even though it's like neutral zone, right? But officially on paper it's still their land, right? So this is fascinating. That's a very good video, guys. But yeah, if you guys are new to this channel, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more content. If you guys enjoyed this video, found it informative, please don't forget to give this one a thumbs up, and I will see you guys next time.